Should you pay for your child with additional needs to have a private diagnosis, or should you wait for the NHS? So let's start with the NHS, and all I can do is just reflect on my experiences, and I would love to hear yours. Please pop them in the comments below. At this stage, we are 3 years in waiting for an appointment. Okay, I am not here to bash the NHS. I actually think that they're fantastic compared to other healthcare systems around the world. However, when it comes to neurodiversity and offering appointments and formal diagnoses, that is one area where I feel that there could be a substantial improvement. So just going back on my story, when my son first got into nursery and I spoke to the health visitor about the challenges that we were facing and the milestones that he wasn't meeting, she actually made that referral to the pediatricians. Okay, during that same year, this is 2023, the referral was accepted. I was told that sometimes children who have just started nursery or who are quite young don't get their referrals accepted because, you know, the professionals just want to wait to see how the child gets on, etc. But my son's referral was accepted. Where we are now in the middle of 2025, I got to a point or a stage where I was so frustrated. Now, I know there's long waiting lists. My child is not the only child with additional needs, okay? I know that and I acknowledge that. What I didn't appreciate was silence. Literally just, yes, his referral was accepted, but I haven't heard anything in between. And where we're located, they're not in the habit of telling parents like where they are in the waiting lists for their own reasons. Okay, again, I accept that, but it was literally radio silence. So I'm thinking, okay, you know, we're still here. You know, do they know that we're waiting? And, you know, I would do my research, find out what I could do. There wasn't really anything that I could do. However, from that research and from other parents' experiences, I unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because it's not in me, that's not my personality to make a big fuss about things. I'm the sort of person, I am an introvert. I'm the sort of person that's just like, oh, it's okay, you know, it will happen, you know, let's just be patient and wait. That's me, okay? Other people are a lot more fiery. We are all different, we're all human. But I got to a point where I saw at some points that my son was just so frustrated. I was frustrated as mum and I didn't know what to do. So from other parents' sort of perspective and their experiences, one person was saying that they made a complaint to the Patient Advocate Liaison Service, known as PALS, P-A-L-S. Now, I'm not saying that you must do this. I'm giving you an example of what I did. And it wasn't, again, to shout and to scream and to yell because that is just not me. It was more a case of, like, what help can you give me? You know, I know there's a long waiting list. I'm not silly. I watch the news. I use the NHS all the time. But what, as a parent, am I supposed to do in the meantime, you know? And actually sending that complaint, more of a moan, more of a question to them, got someone to call me. I think it was about 5 to 7 days thereafter. And I had a really, really pleasurable experience speaking to one of the top bosses. And again, she didn't really say anything to me that I hadn't heard before, but it was more just alerting them that we are still here, that what would you like me to do as a parent whilst I'm waiting? What are you doing as an establishment to help me and other parents like me? So she was just explaining about, yeah, it's done in order. So, our referral was accepted in 2023. I've basically got another sort of 8 to 9 months left waiting. That's all she could really sort of tell me. Okay. Now, of course, I was disappointed. But I think just having someone speak to me and to reassure me and just to say, yes, we know you're waiting. And, they did provide me with additional resources, etc. I did appreciate that. Prior to that, I did contact my local MP. Again, it was more a case of, what are you going to do as a member of parliament, as government? What are you going to do with our children? They need to have a diagnosis. And the reason why it's so important for me is because of access to other therapies. Okay, so yes, the NHS, yes, I've worked, I understand all of that, okay, and I understand that there's a lot of children now that are waiting to be diagnosed, but actually I would also like my son to have access to other therapies. So the flip side of that, private diagnosis. I have looked into that. There is an organisation, a national organisation that I contacted and asked about going through a private diagnosis. The quote that I received, don't quote me on this, was just under £4,000. Now that was just one provider that I contacted. Yes, there are many, okay, but I just wanted to contact one so I could weigh up my options. And they gave me that cost. And even then they said to me, okay, Karina, there's a 6 to 8 month wait. And I thought, well, what's the point of that, really? Like, why would I want to pay to go private to then still have to wait? And in the meantime, I could get the NHS appointment to come through. There was just so many things going on. I was so overwhelmed. There's also advice and words going around about the right to choose, where the NHS will pay a private provider to go through the diagnosis process. I don't have experience of that, so I can't talk to that too much. Again, it is something that I've kind of skimmed on when I was doing my research, that I would contact my GP and get the NHS to pay for a private diagnosis. But what I have now done is that I have chosen to wait. I've chosen to wait because I feel that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm getting that because I have been told it's possibly another 8 to 9 months time. Now, it could be that it's less than that, it could be that there's more than that, but I have something to hold on to, just not nothing. I'm choosing to wait because as part of me contacting the MP, I did get a response from the health services, contacting the PALS, I'm going through that process. I was given information, I was given resources, but though that information that I was given, I've already done, like the parenting courses and, what to do if your child doesn't eat. I've done all that. I'm sort of way past that in my journey. But I did appreciate them obviously offering that to me, and not every parent will know that those resources are there. It's just that when I've weighed up everything, I have just felt that I am going to wait because he's near the top of the queue, let's say. Okay, he is moving up. I am positive that I can implement things at home to make my son's life a little bit more comfortable. I know that I can reach out to various professionals I've also educated myself on all things neurodiversity, and that is also why I'm here speaking to you today. Maybe just to give you some reassurance and to say that it is going to be okay. Now, whether you choose to pray privately or whether you choose to wait on the NHS or local government services, that is a personal choice for you as a parent and a carer. What I also felt regarding the private diagnosis is that, that private provider has to be recognised by the NHS, for things like EHCPs and other needs assessment that your child may need. And I would say that, if your child is struggling and you're finding it difficult to cope and you are in a position where you can go and pay privately, then do it. Again, this is your child choice. You know your child, make that decision for them. The goal is to help your child sooner, but it's not just a tick box exercise, as you know. Okay, so if you do choose to wait, wait with grace, get as much resources as you can, educate yourself, reach out to relevant people, put things in place for your child. If you can't do that, if it's not sustainable for you, then maybe you want to consider private. Now, these are the sort of things that I discuss in my coaching program. Okay, if you'd love to speak to me, you can book a call with me by clicking in the link in the description below, and you and I can have a conversation and we can work out whether I can help you and I will be a good fit and a good support for your family.